Running out of money is the fastest way to kill your dream of traveling the world. And I've seen it happen time and time again. People dive into the nomadic lifestyle unprepared, burn through their savings, and are forced to return home. But that won't be you. The truth is, anyone can design a life of freedom if they know how to budget for it the right way. Most people completely underestimate what it actually costs to be a digital nomad, and that's where they go wrong. So today, we're breaking down exactly how to build a sustainable budget that keeps you traveling for the long haul, without the panic, without the financial surprises. Let's dive in.
Before we started actually packing our bags and booking the ticket to fly to our next destination, we had to start with the planning process. Why, in your words, why do planning and budgeting matter if you're slow traveling?
Well, I mean, planning and budgeting are a huge part of it, because if you don't, then you're going to run into issues down the road. I mean, as much as we would have loved to just book a ticket, fly, and just start living, pretty sure the funds would have ran out before we even got there. So planning and budgeting is realistically the only smart way to travel when you have kids.
Or in general, I think to have a stress-free adventure, especially if you're going to do it long-term, but even short-term, you have to plan and budget and get your priorities in order before you can even book the ticket.
Yep.
Otherwise, it will be a stressful time. And the whole point of traveling for us and for the whole point of traveling is to enjoy it.
Stress-free.
Yeah. What would you say is the first step to the stress-free adventure?
I mean, selecting your destination would be a huge part of it, because you really can't do a lot of the other planning and budgeting until you have your destination selected. But that comes down to buying a plane ticket, finding accommodations. You need to know where you're going and what you're getting yourself into.
I would say, too, one of the first steps is determining your goals. Like for us, our whole reason for slow traveling with our children is, the biggest reason is to just get out and explore and live, to experience other cultures, and to help our children and ourselves really learn more about the world versus just reading it. We wanted that hands-on experience, not just reading it in a textbook.
Right.
So for us, it's the educational experience, along with the cultural experiences.
But that's just the thing. Like, you think about all the time we spent in the public school system reading about places. I mean, anything. It would have made such a bigger impact if we were actually there and actually able to experience these things hands-on and with our own eyes, versus reading about it in a book and then 2 weeks later taking a test about it. I mean, we've never been the test kind of homeschoolers, but I mean, it's going to make a lasting impact on our kids, in our kids' lives, seeing and experiencing things versus reading about it. Yeah, I mean, there's great books out there. I mean, we've read quite a few of them, but nothing's going to stick like seeing the pyramids in person.
Right.
Or whatever it is. That's just an example. The common theme with our current society is both parents work, or one stays home and the other works, and we're never together as a family.
Yeah, while the kids get shipped off to another building for someone else to do all the teaching, the learning, the experiencing.
Yes.
We want to
collaborate as a family to ultimately fill all of our cups.
Spend more time together, grow together, and just learn together.
Yeah.
I think we're organically kind of shifting with, I don't know if it's just the millennial generation or if it's society as a whole, but it feels like there's a shift in like what matters the most, where the priorities lie. And a lot more people are opening up to being together more as a family, to fit parenting differently than how we were parented.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with how we were raised and brought up and the experiences that we had growing up.
Yeah.
We're trying to break the cycle of latchkey kids getting home at 3 in the afternoon and parents aren't home till 6, and you're fending for yourself and you don't really have anyone to talk to, don't really have anyone to help you with anything. You're just kind of parenting yourself, and we're looking at building a stronger bond as a family and potentially finding a piece of ourselves in every place we travel to.
Right.
So self-discovery is a big part of it for us.
Self-discovery. Nice name drop.
Thanks. Words aren't that hard, even when you're under pressure.
Listen. Prior to booking a flight, how did we estimate travel costs, or how can someone else estimate travel costs? Like, how did you break it down to get your budget?
I mean, we kind of broke it down into 7 main categories. Essentially, simply put, accommodations, food, transportation, health, travel insurance, Wi-Fi or cell service, and visas, passports, and entertainment and activities. So breaking things down into lists has always helped us with everything. That's just kind of how we operate as a family. But having it written down and in an easy to consume list, it really helped us be able to compartmentalize each cost for everything.
After we started to kind of break things down, how did it kind of come together as far as like a monthly budget? What numbers were we basing everything off of when we were starting to get an idea? Because you can't start traveling to unknown areas if you don't have a baseline.
I think for us, a lot of it was gut. Like, what did we think we would need? We didn't really have exact figures at the time.
Well, we had an estimate, though. Like, right now in the United States, we're paying about $1,500 for rent. We have $450 a month for a car payment. There's gas, food.
Yeah.
All of those kind of factor in.
I guess I just didn't really know how to answer your question. You're coming at me with a lot. Yeah, we basically just made a list of, like you said, our current expenses and researched what those types of things would cost in the destinations that we were looking at potentially moving to. Obviously, we won't have a car, so that's a huge expense lifted, but it'll be replaced with something else. So
Potentially. So all in all, when we were coming up with our estimated budget, we kind of concluded initially that it was roughly around $5,000 a month that we're paying out.
Roughly.
So that was kind of like our baseline for getting started. We figured if we can make that and live that way in the United States, then that's a good jumping off point for traveling. Once we had a monthly budget, then we started narrowing down destinations based on what would kind of fit. For us, what felt safe was starting in the Mexico area because it's close to the United States. That way, if something were to come up or were to happen and we needed help, we'd be a little bit closer to friends and family. And also, it just kind of gave us a chance to figure things out in a somewhat safer environment before we move on and go all the way across the ocean.
Yeah, we won't feel quite as alienated in Mexico. It's mostly similar to life here. But yeah, that's a good point too. If something were to arise and we had to hop on a flight home, we're not looking at a 18-hour flight. We're looking at more like 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico seems like, I think in my mind, what gravitated me towards Mexico is it feels like a great transition country to start slow travel across the world, because it is so similar to America. It's not very far away. Its cost of living is relatively low, and it just seemed like a really good place to start.
It's also a lot warmer.
And that is also true. It's tropical.
Yes. We're trying to avoid Canada for that reason. No offense, Canada, but...
No, full offense. You suck. The climate was a huge part of it. Growing up in the Midwest, sick of winter.
Mm-hmm.
The Yucatan is warm. It's tropical. Yeah, it rains a lot, but that's better than snow.
And before we even began, or before we've even left the country, I've already learned a lot of things about geography and didn't even realize the Yucatan Peninsula was the name of the area that we were looking at. Mm-hmm. So I already feel smarter.
I've heard the term Yucatan Peninsula, but I never knew where it was or what it was. You would think we would know after spending all that time in the public school system, but...
Memorizing everything.
Every capital of every country in South America, but I guess Mexico's not in South America, so that explains why I don't know where the Yucatan Peninsula is.
That explains everything.
Know where the Yucatan Peninsula was.
So initially, too, we thought we wanted to rent for 1 year.
Yep. It's familiar.
It's familiar. It felt safer. It felt like it would give us a chance to really step out of the United States, actually, but to really do it at a slower pace. And then the more we talked about it, the more we realized with our business and with just our adventure mindset, mm-hmm. We don't want to stay in one spot for 1 year.
No.
There's pros and cons either way, obviously, but I think for me, one of the biggest pros to slow traveling like every 3 to 6 months versus a year is the fact that like if we're in an area or in an Airbnb or a home of some kind that isn't a good fit for us, we don't feel stuck there.
Yep. Because
we know it's going to be short term. So if there's mold issues, that's common. Bug issues.
I was just going to say bugs.
Or even like with Mexico, it's going to be a huge difference with the weather. The weather. So for me, it feels better just being able to travel around.
Yeah.
A little bit every 3 months.
Well, it kind of goes back. It kind of goes back to our why, and freedom is one of our huge whys. Mm-hmm. Locking ourselves into a 1 year lease somewhere, especially considering we've never been to this place before, doesn't feel organic. It feels like a potential pain point in the future.
Feels like we would just be living the same life that we're living now, in a hotter climate.
That's exactly right.
And I was just going to say, that's the whole point of all of this for us, to just break out of that habit, break out of the mundane, where every day starts to feel like Groundhog Day because you're doing the same things. I feel like we would be less apt to go out and explore more frequently because we would just be settled into the same routine of relying on TV or the screens to entertain the kids while we try to figure our lives out.
How long did it really take before we realized the year lease was a bad idea? Like what led to that? What made you realize 1 year is not correct for our family?
We were pretty dead set on it.
No, we were.
We even put in an application, and it was within 2 days, I think, of just, there's something about taking the step and making it final and formal, where it really puts things into perspective. And for me, just having that space between like those 48 hours before we even heard back from them, in that time frame, it just kind of clicked. We also, during that time frame, had started working on the YouTube channel and just kind of our business plan going forward, and just in talking about it more, both on camera and off camera, I realized that what we were saying and what we were planning on doing were not in alignment already.
So alignment has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Gut instinct.
Yeah. And so, but also the other side of that is what we are planning on doing. Once we kind of got more clear direction as to what direction we are going with our business, you're saying that affected time frame for staying in a certain place and for how long?
Yeah.
How do you know? So you mentioned we put in the application. How do you know that we weren't just getting cold feet? How do you know the difference between cold feet and being scared versus alignment? What's the thin line there? How do you know you're not just feeling scared versus like, well, this really just isn't what we're looking for?
It's a good question.
Because you're going to feel scared. We still do. But how do you, second part to that question is, how do you not let fear take over and stay focused?
A lot of it is a gut instinct. Once you learn to start leaning into your intuition, you can feel it in your body, as far as like what's in alignment and what's not. And sometimes it just takes asking the questions, answering the questions, and taking action to start to get that clarity. So even though like my head, my ego is constantly reminding me like, hey, this is a big scary thing for us. We're doing something unconventional. We shouldn't be doing this. At the same time, down in like the pit of your stomach, in my stomach, it feels calm. Everything feels right. I know that staying where we are right now is not the right move.
No.
I don't know if you can ever explain it. You almost just have to feel it. Your body will tell you and guide you to what is right and what's wrong. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody. It doesn't even have to make sense to us. For me, I've always done better. I don't know if done better is the right way to put it, but I've always followed my instinct, and then when I look back in hindsight, then I can connect the dots to see, oh, I felt called to do this because of this. I was meant to go here. We can't always look ahead and see the entire timeline.
Yeah.
We'll never know why we're getting the downloads that we're getting or the thoughts or the gut feelings. But for me, I just know that I have to trust it. What's meant for us will find us. And we just have to trust that we're always being guided and called to do something greater and better. And staying here in central Wisconsin feels like settling. It feels like being stuck.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like playing small and just staying in a comfort zone for the safety measure, or because society says
a comfort zone we're not comfortable in.
Yeah.
We are not comfortable here. We don't want to be here anymore. So I guess a good way to synopsis size what you're saying is act now. The picture will reveal itself afterwards.
Yes. I don't know what the whole, and like, I know I've always felt called to travel, but I don't know why. I don't know what's waiting for us on the other side. I don't know what our impact is on the world. I don't know how we're going to change other people's lives, or like what's the purpose of this. I just know that's what we're meant to do.
That's what we're meant to do. And acting now, all of that you just mentioned will show itself eventually.
Mm-hmm.
What's your creative process for processing all of this? Like, what do you do to help you keep your thoughts organized and to keep track of your divine downloads? And like, what do you do? Just give me a little insight to that.
Definitely a lot of journaling. But I've started to shift towards, I really enjoy writing physically, pen to paper, but I know now that we're shifting to the nomad life, we won't always have access to pen and paper. So I've tried to embrace the digital computer aspect for note-taking, and just kind of keeping track of all my thoughts. The one plus side to typing everything out is that I can also copy and paste later and take bits and pieces a lot easier and kind of shift it around to make it into something impactful content-wise that can hopefully inspire other people.
Is that kind of our goal here, is to inspire people?
I think so. Because in our current small circle alone, there's so many times we have conversations with people where it's hard to explain. I know that I don't know everything. I know that I don't have all the answers, but I also know that I'm open to growth and I'm open to exploring and learning. But when you talk to other people in our current circle, we can tell that they don't have that same mindset, and it's really hard to continue, or it's really hard to just not shake them and go, what's wrong with you? Like, how do you not see this? Nobody will see the truth or the reality until they're ready to see it. So we can't force them. But at the same time, we can see that if they were to just change one line of thinking, or if they were to reframe their mindset over a certain topic, things could shift for them. And I think on a bigger level, or on a larger scale, we can help a lot of people shift.
So would you say that the millennial age group is kind of our focus?
I think so. We're kind of that middle ground between the boomer generation, the Gen Xers, the latchkey kids, and also the skibbity riz, whatever that is. We're getting to that age where I already know I'm at that age, where I don't keep up with the norms or the new lingo or whatever. Like, we're already making fun of it. But at the same time, we at least have been able to kind of embrace like open AI and just kind of embrace new ways of thinking in general. So we're kind of that middle ground between the two generations. We can take what's new and coming, and we can hopefully kind of transcribe it in a way or flip it in a way so that the other generations might understand as well.
I wonder if that's because our generation is the one that grew up with the formation of the internet.
I think so.
And technology really booming as a whole. Like, we were 10, 11, 12 adolescents when AOL dropped. I mean, that changed the world.
It did.
I wonder if that's why we kind of feel like we're that in-between age group where we're not too young to learn new things that younger kids are coming up with, but we're also not too old we're not too old to take things from our younger generation, and we're not too young to see a bigger picture of it all, But
we've seen both sides.
Yeah, we've grown up on both sides. And I think that's really helped us.
I think part of that is why it took us so long to get to this point, or it feels like it did. I also know everything happens for a reason at the time that it's supposed to happen, but part of me always wonders, like, what if I had just stopped being scared in my 20s? What if I was not running from myself in my 20s and drinking everything away and partying all the time, and actually, like, started learning about entrepreneurship and how to build a business and, like, how to follow your dreams? Where would I be? Like, all of this has really just kind of come to fruition over the last 5 to 6 years specifically. in a sense, it kind of goes back to when our oldest was born.
Mm-hmm.
So like 11, 12 years ago. That's kind of when things started trickling in as far as like seeing things differently and just having children. Once you start having children, they mirror back to you all of your flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no buffer. Like, it's just there in your face. So you have no choice but to embrace it and learn from it and grow from it. For the first few years, I think it was a little jarring, but we started to at least kind of open up to it. And then the last 5 or 6 years is really when we started taking active steps. We didn't know what would lead to this,
Right.
but that's when the business started photography-wise, and we just started growing.
Okay, so before we transition into our main talking points today, what was our what was the moment we knew that this was what we needed to do? Like, let's go back 6 months. What was the divine download we had, and like what was the process leading us to this point?
When we started working with a business coach, we finally sat with someone who was outside of our current circle, who had a different mindset, someone who wasn't afraid to sit down and actually ask us the hard questions, someone who actually reflected back to us what we were saying. We thought we wanted one thing for ourselves and our business, but the words that were coming out of our mouth, that's what she reflected back to us and said, wait a minute, you guys need to be traveling. This is what you're saying. This is what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we needed that third party who had no interest whatsoever in anything about us, really. We needed that third party to give us that feedback. She didn't know our past for the most part. She doesn't know, other than the questions that she had asked us, she didn't know anything about us or the preconceived notions of who we are or who we're supposed to be, the box that people have us put into.
It was truly unbiased.
That's the word.
But what about people that don't have that?
Find it.
We can't just say, hey, go hire a business coach and figure it out. Like, how can people take these steps if they don't have a third party, if they're currently in the box that people have placed for them? What can they do to get out of it?
Chances are, if they have organically found this conversation, then that means that there is an interest somewhere inside of you. If you're still here listening to this, that means that there's something inside of you that is interested in, whether it's traveling more, traveling full-time, whatever it is, living a different life altogether. And I would say start seeking out other content creators or other people. Like, the internet is just this vast ocean of...
It's more than social media.
Right. It can be used as a tool, and it can be used for inspiration. So, like, for me specifically, what I started to do right away was I started to intentionally... I already followed a few people that traveled, but I intentionally set out... I got rid of all of the accounts that no longer served me, that were no longer in alignment with what we truly wanted for our future and where we saw ourselves. And I started following the accounts for people that were already doing that. That gives us the constant feedback then. Every time I do doom scroll, it's not politics or the end of the world type of stuff or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's people that are inspiring, people that are living life. And I understand not everything on the internet is entirely true, but you also need to kind of romanticize your life in a way. Like, if you don't dream big and you don't dream crazy thoughts, you're never going to change.
You're going to be stuck.
You are. So if you don't have anyone in your immediate circle, start seeking outside resources. There's plenty of people out there that you can pay to just talk to, more or less.
So therapy?
Well, not therapy, but there's plenty of, there's business coaches, there's life coaches, there's travel advisors. Like, even if you don't have the funds to actually pay them, you can follow their content, get feedback from what they're sharing. And then from there, most content creators are open to an organic conversation. So if you just hit them up with messages, chances are they're going to want to share with you. There will be some that will only try to sell, and maybe those aren't your people. That's fine. If you don't feel like you can't learn from them, go find someone else.
Yep.
There's plenty of people out there. Plenty of free information. That's what blows my mind, is how much free information is out there and how many people are not utilizing it.
I think a big part of the process is, I keep thinking, like, the first time we met with our business coach, how nervous I was, how weird it felt to me to do it. I was very uncomfortable. Beyond my wildest dreams. I didn't want to do it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to just go work, come home, eat dinner, and put the kids to bed. I was happy with that. It felt familiar. It felt okay. I was comfortable with that. But the more I think about it, doing the uncomfortable things really helped me grow. So I guess one thing I have taken away from it is, do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't shy away from something that you would normally be like, do it. Like, it can be anything. Having a conversation with someone at a restaurant, or just do something that you wouldn't normally do. You'll take something away from it every single time.
Even just starting this whole video process.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that long of a process yet, but already it's shown me, I feel like in a way I'm more intentional with our time together with our kids. I'm more intentional with our days. Yes, I'm always thinking about, like, is there a way we can use some of this or document some of this for whatever content later on? But it's forcing me to get out of the brain fog that I was in and actually be present in the moment with whatever's happening.
Yeah.
And it's forcing me to pay attention. Like, I'm no longer just mindlessly going through the motions. I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing, what everyone else is doing, what we're saying, how we speak to each other. I just assume the camera's on at all times, so it's made me more aware.
Yeah. Dad!
With the camera aspect, for us becoming or diving into the content creation, which you don't have to do. Obviously, you can make money 1,000 different ways to travel or to support your travel funds. But for us, the other aspect or the other side of the coin was, I just wanted to document our essentially create family films.
Build a legacy.
Build a legacy, not just for our children, but for ourselves. I think the human memory is so flawed that we say things, like, it just comes out and then we forget it immediately. There's so many times where I've gone back and listened to, I'm the one that takes the pictures for the most part of our kids, like, on a regular basis. And when I've looked back on photos from like 3 months ago, I don't even remember taking them. But I'm the one that took it. I was there and I did all the editing, and I still have almost forgotten the moments already. Like, that's how fast time goes. So
you were the captain of the ship at that time.
Yeah.
You still don't remember.
So for us to have the ability to be able to go back and relive moments over and over again, just as a family, or even for ourselves to see how we've grown, that's priceless, really. I think everybody should be doing it. Go pick up a camera.
DJI makes great cameras. Sony makes great cameras. But, okay.
So now that we made the decision, we started to kind of get in the mindset of planning and budgeting. What did we start to do right away? Like, what actionable steps did we take right away to start saving money?
Yes.
You can't use that. That's mine.
No.
What was our plan of attack?
Next question.
So we said, okay, our lease is up in 6 months. Once we made the decision, I think it took us like a month or so to like really sit with it though.
Mm-hmm. It was more like 2 or 3 months because that was right around the time I was getting promoted at work.
Mm.
And we weren't really sure if this was what we were going to do or not, but I was getting paid more by taking the promotion, so I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. And now I'm not there anymore, which feels really good to say. I mean, the biggest thing we started doing was researching the lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
destinations, what places would be a good fit for us that are lower cost or at least similar to what we're currently paying here in central Wisconsin. More so, I think mostly just being mindful of A, where our money is going, and B, what would that look like in a different destination. So
We also, once we made the final decision that we knew this is what we wanted to do, then we knew we had to get rid of all of our stuff.
mm-hmm.
For us, I think it was daunting, and it still is because there's so much shit. And it's hard to get rid of it all, it seems. But it was helpful for me to know that we were going to get everything down to 1 or 2 totes as far as sentimental stuff. And then other than that, everything else could just go. It had to go. So that kind of helped shift things for me. Obviously, some people keep their houses and stuff or put it all in storage, but we do not plan on coming back to this area and settling back down. So I knew we don't know how long we're going to do this, but
As long as we possibly can.
Wherever we do end up though, it's going to be a lot easier to just start clean and fresh versus going, oh yeah, we found a place across the world, now we got to figure out how to get all our stuff there.
Yep. Kind of like other people we know who live this lifestyle that are buying furniture, buying all this other stuff, and when you do eventually relocate, you have to redo the entire process over again. Mm-hmm. The goal, I think, is we only want to do this once. Specifically speaking to the getting rid of your possessions. We only want to do this once. Now, are we going to accrue some things as we go? Potentially. But we can always figure it out as we go. I don't know. But I agree with you, though. Like, once we finally made the official decision to transition into this lifestyle, you're far more sentimental to possessions than I am. You have...
Took me a while to let go of some stuff.
I found a tote yesterday in the garage that has a bunch of stuff of yours in there from when you were a kid, and like there's that bowling pin from your birthday party when you were 9 or whatever age you were.
That was Marley's.
That's Marley's?
That's all Marley's.
You had one.
No. I had a trophy.
Whatever. Anyways.
Memories.
Like, I'm more so on the mindset, and I always have been, like, let's just dump it all, donate as much as we can, sell the stuff that we can make money on to supplement, and let's just get rid of the rest. I don't want anything. I want clothes, I want gear, and that's pretty much it. And I want you.
I think once we get to the point where we have finally gotten rid of everything and we have it all down to a suitcase and we're just going to feel so free. There's nothing but a suitcase holding us back. Like nothing else holding us back.
Other than ourselves.
Other than ourselves. We're working on that.
But we're getting past it.
So as far as like making money, that's one, when you're starting the planning process, that was one aspect. Like you can try to sell some of the stuff off. We do plan on selling our cars, but we have a loan out yet on one of them. So it won't be much of a income net,
I don't
essentially.
know.
But
That's hard to say.
you never know. With the way cars go these days.
Trucks are definitely more expensive than cars, so
That is true. But we've also started canceling all the extra subscriptions and things that we don't need. That started kind of saving us some money.
hundreds of dollars a year.
Yeah. And we also had the, what is that called? The high interest savings?
Yep, high yield money market.
That's it. He's the words guy.
That's kind of our emergency fund. Highly recommend. Sorry to
Nope.
segue for a sec, but talk to a financial advisor and have them set up a CD or a money market account where it works as a savings account, but it builds interest. It grows as you grow, and you can pull from it as you need it. That's a great place to store your emergency funds versus just a regular old savings account that doesn't work for you.
How much of an emergency fund should people have or consider?
The number that we've kind of settled on is $10K. That's our goal. That's a lot of money for the average person, but
it should, like in general broad terms, it should be at least 2 to 3 months, well, probably ideally 3 to 6 months of sustainability
right.
is what your emergency fund should cover.
Yep. So that way you're not stuck in a foreign country with absolutely no money.
Right.
And are forced to
Things happen.
do dirty things for money.
Do what you got to do, man.
Selling feet pics online.
No.
Speaking of which, put some socks on. You're giving up free content.
Gross. No. Have we done anything else to save money?
Stop spending on stuff. Stop spending money on stuff we don't need.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Now that we know we're getting rid of everything, we're not bringing stuff home other than stuff for the travel itself. We stopped buying random things out and about. There's no more impulse buys.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. Stop impulse buying stuff. That is huge because we're getting rid of everything. We don't want to bring stuff in just to turn around and sell it.
And even though it's not always easy with kids, it does make a good anchor or statement to come back to when we do go to the store and they're constantly like, oh, I want toys. I need all these things.
I need Hot Wheels.
I need Hot Wheels and Barbies. Like, it's a good talking point for them to, or a way for us to remind them, like, well, we're not going to buy all these things because it won't fit in the suitcase. So even though there's still some tears here and there, they've heard it enough times now where they go into the store knowing if they want to look at the toys, they're like, but we won't buy anything because we can't bring it with. So they're getting to that point. The other thing that I think was really helpful, and it just kind of happened with our timeline, but I think telling friends and family before Christmas was really helpful because then everybody could plan, instead of buying them more junk that they're not going to play with for more than a week, we ended up getting a shit ton of gift cards. And that was really helpful to...
And useful items, backpacks.
Yeah.
Travel toys.
Things that we could...
Supplies.
That helped to take a lot off of our plate when it was time to go buy the clothes and the wardrobes for the warmer climate. It was nice to have that fund there to help support us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So plan your life around Christmas holidays.
To kind of circle back for a second, you were talking about the kids and how they've kind of embraced the no impulse buying, if you will. That's a huge part of the process is don't leave your kids out of this process. Talk to them. We've talked to our kids we talk to our kids every day about this. They're a part of it just as much as we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're more in charge, obviously, but they know what's going on. They understand what's going on. It's not just like one day we're going to be like, all right,
Packing up, we're going.
We're out.
They
know what's happening.
They're also excited about it when they talk about it with other friends and family. It's just natural conversation now, but we also keep the line of communication open. So when they do have those moments of sadness over leaving their friends or leaving their toys behind, we're sitting down with them and letting them talk through it. Mm-hmm. And we're relating to them, like, because we're letting go of a lot of things too. So while they may not fully encompass how good this could be for them, we're kind of we're there guiding them through it instead of just saying, "Oh, you'll be fine."
Yeah, we give them the stool to stand on to talk to us. Mm-hmm. We give them the soapbox.
Right.
So that's a huge thing to think about when planning this out, is keep your kids informed. Let them express to you their concerns, their questions, how they feel, because they're just as much of a part of it as you are. It'll help them understand, like, well, why do I have to get rid of my kitty cat? Well, because that's not going to fit in your suitcase. They'll understand.
Stuffed animal, kitty cat, not a real one.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Well, it does meow, but
it feels real.
It doesn't stop meowing either. Anyways,
so now that we have like this whole budget pre-planning, all the fun stuff, and we've picked our destination, how are we going to make sure that we stay on budget once we actually begin traveling?
Keeping track of it is going to be easy because there's a lot of great apps. There's a lot of great programs that can help you keep track of your budget, which we fully plan on using. There's like Travel Spend. That's a big one, a big app. It helps you keep track of your income, your outgoing expenses. There's multiple currency support, so you can keep track of like pesos or euros or rupees, whatever the hell it is you're dealing with in the country that you're in. And it gives you categorization options for your expenses, for travel, for living expenses, food. Like it gives you a visual, and well, as you know, we are big visual people. Mm-hmm. We need to see things written out or in pictures before we can fully grasp it.
I think keeping track of it and checking in weekly with where our budget is will also help it stay front of mind, so mm-hmm. that way we don't get so far off course that we get ourselves into trouble. Yes. So that way, when like the hidden expenses or extra things do come up, we can see it in real time and we can see how we need to adjust going forward, like other activities or things that we had planned.
Yep.
And another big thing will be deciding on what is the most important to us out of all of this, like our experience. What destinations do we want to, like what's a must-see? What can we probably live without? If we had to, that way, if we have to cut something later, we'll make sure that we're still going to be fulfilled and we're still going to see and experience what is a priority,
right,
versus what was just extra add-in fun.
So what you're saying is making a list of priorities of things that we have to do versus things that we want to do.
Right.
Gotcha. And that's going to look different for everybody, I would assume.
Of course.
Might even look different for us in 6 months. Who knows?
It will. It should. But the biggest thing will be, I think, for us, for sure, because we're planning on world schooling, then making it like educational for the kids, that's kind of our anchor. Mm-hmm. Whether there's a lot of other amazing fun things that we want to experience and want to try and do, but if it comes down to if push comes to shove and we have to cut something out, as long as we're keeping the educational stuff for the kids, for all of us, but for the kids mostly, then we'll still feel satisfied and fulfilled.
Yep. Like we maximized our time in every area.
Mm-hmm. As we go, we'll have more feedback and information on the banking and the exchange of currency and things like that.
Yeah.
But for now, this is kind of just our plan leading up to the big day, the D-Day.
D-Day. Boots on the ground.
Ready, set, go.
Here's an interesting thought. If you were to start from zero today, how long would it take you to be financially prepared for a life of travel?
Mm-hmm. Like absolute zero?
Yeah, like think
40
us
years.
A year ago from today. How long do you think it would take us to be fully prepared financially for traveling?
Probably at least a year. If we were starting at zero. I think it depends. Like if we had made the concrete decision a year ago, it would have been an entirely different conversation for us. We spent 6 months basically just kind of doing our own thing and buying the things and whatever. So that focus wasn't there. But realistically, if you are able to, whether you're in like a current job or whatnot, if you have the focus and the mindset, you can start picking up side jobs or starting to build an online business. Like if we would have started all of this a year ago, we would be so much further along.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we are starting it now before some people wait until they're already traveling.
Yeah.
We're taking you guys along on the whole experience with us because we know that there's a lot of other people that are also going to be in the same boat. Like you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
And it's hard to just see those people online that are the influencers that are already in it. And you just, it's almost overwhelming and intimidating because you go, well, I could never do that. We're here to tell you that you can. We're doing it. It is scary. And I would say it's actually mentally exhausting more than it is physically because you have to change your mindset dramatically and you have to give yourself space and time to go through the grieving process of letting things go, letting people go, and you have to have the space to fully step into where your next chapter begins.
You have to be able to see yourself in that space.
Mm-hmm. I think for the first 3 months for us, part of it was we were undecided, but we also, in my gut, I knew we were going to do this. We were just scared.
Yep.
So once we started looking around and like realizing we were going to let go of things and we would have to separate ourselves from our family, basically, it took time for that to kind of process through. And just when you think like, okay, we're good now, one day, then all of a sudden something else would come up or somebody would say something and we would be triggered the next day. And there was a lot of that where you can't predict what's going to come up for you, whether it's things from the past or things current situations. But a lot of it is just working through the fear of letting go, the fear of failure, being able to name your fears.
Yeah.
That's important. You have to give yourself time to get through all that muck because otherwise you can't jump into this excited and ready to go and full of hopes and dreams and visions of the future if you're still afraid.
If the back of your mind is still filled with doubt and fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work. What have you done specifically to help cope with that?
I talked to my business coach. I think...
And I talked to you.
I am your business coach. A lot of it has been... It kind of depends. For me, there's a mixture of journaling, meditating, going out for walks, just kind of being alone with my own thoughts to kind of process, which is challenging when you're a stay-at-home mom that's always with her children and you're out working, so you can't take them away because you're making money for us.
Trying to.
So there's a lot of that. And then I think what really helped too was, aside from being able to bounce things off of our business coach, just us opening up more and checking in more and letting go of our own fear or our own judgments. Just letting go of the fear of judgment of talking to each other really helped. We were finally at a point where I can tell that, there might be something on your mind. Maybe you're not even aware of it, but I can feel your energy. And I'm at a point where I can clearly say, hey, what's going on? Like in the moment. Whereas 6 years ago, I would have shut down when you were shut down. And then I would have sat with it and twisted it in my head and made it into a thing instead of just saying, hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, man?
So I think for both of us, being able to open up and actually communicate, and also being able to actually hear the other person, that has really helped. Because 90% of the time, 99% of the time, anything that I've already been feeling and sitting with, and I might be confused about a decision or whatever it is, it's also on your brain too. Mm-hmm. How many times have I said, holy, you were thinking about this? I thought it was just me.
It's a daily occurrence.
So I think that's really helped.
How has me quitting my job and being home more helped you?
It has created so much space. I think for both of us, it has really helped because now we're able to divide and conquer our future life a lot easier. Even when you weren't physically at the corporate job, you were still mentally sucked into it. Yeah. And that pulled you out of our relationship. It pulled you out of the family dynamic. It pulled you out of kind of our dreaming for this future and planning. And it left everything on my shoulders. And I didn't have the mental space. We didn't have the time and the space to figure it out with the kids and everything in the short amount of time we had. And then on top of that, being the visionary, I'm always trying to keep moving forward, but I didn't have the actual time to do the editing, to do the recording, to do the planning. I was constantly being pulled out of it to deal with the nonstop mom tasks. Mm-hmm. So for me, just you being here to help take over that load has helped tremendously. I can finally work for large chunks at a time. I've gotten so much done. And I also feel like within the first week alone, everything has shifted dramatically as far as what we thought we were going to do or where we were going to take this. We've already started to shift, and that's because we've had the time to actually sit down with it, dive into it, figure it out, right, and go through it quickly versus...
We've been able to actually work together for once.
Yeah.
It's been nice.
Yeah.
And it already feels like I've been gone out of the corporate world for at least a month, and this is day 5 or 6, I don't even know. But it's been nice. So I guess that's a good thing to bring up is, when do you quit your job?
When they tell you to.
In my case, you kind of just dip out and say, okay, this isn't working for me anymore. It was a little bit sooner than I expected to, but it certainly worked out when it was supposed to. This has been great.
You thought you had a plan, but the universe had a better plan for you. And while we thought it was scary at first, we thought we were unprepared, we also realized very quickly that we were able to start building and really get down to the nitty-gritty in these last 30 days. before we actually have to take off and leave, we were able to finally find the space to do all the things that we needed to get done. It hasn't felt as stressful as it could have.
Right. Not trying to fit everything in on a day off or like I worked in a retail store and the hours weren't terrible. Like it wasn't like I was working late nights or super early mornings, but every day I did work, I was gone the entire day. Whether I opened the store or closed the store, I was gone the entire damn day. So then I had to fit in all the A, B, C, D, and E stuff before or after, and that never worked.
No.
Because even before I went to work, I was already mentally there, and when I got home, I was still mentally there. It never worked out as you would think it would.
By the time we get through getting the kids to bed, like we're both just exhausted. We wanted to start a podcast years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
Here we are.
But as far as when do you quit your job, I mean, that's going to vary for everybody, but don't let fear of not having that extra income sway your decision. It's been really freeing for me, specifically, us, rather, for me to be home more. And yes, will we miss those paychecks coming in? For the short term, yes, but the long term, absolutely not, because by quitting the corporate world, it's freeing up so much brain space for us to build our brand and expand earlier than we wanted to.
You can't have a foot in both doors.
I was living between two worlds for a long time, and it feels good to be only in one now. So, yeah, it's going to put some financial strain on you for the short term. And we haven't really felt that yet, but it's helping us create what we're trying to achieve. The life of freedom, slow travel. So you kind of have to feel what's coming to you in the moment. I kind of got lucked into it. The universe said, "Hey, it's time to go," and I listened. I could have went along with their plan and did what they wanted me to do, but I said no. I guess everybody's different, but I guess one of the first things you should think of is an exit strategy of your job, if you have one.
Yeah.
Like, when should I get out?
How? When will I know? Eventually, it's just a gut feeling.
That, and, talking about, like, we've been talking about this for a really long time, and I think the universe finally said, "Hey, you're on the highway, here's the exit, get off."
Once you put it out into the universe, then things start to line up.
Right.
But if you're too afraid to even say it and believe it, then you'll always find a reason or an excuse or something will stop you and keep you stuck.
Exactly. You just got to do it.
Just go, man. Just go.
And that's what I did. And will that work for everybody? Not necessarily. I wasn't exactly like a big CEO or anything, but I mean, I was really good at what I did, and I was kind of important to the whole business. But I felt guilty for a little while prior to leaving, but now I very rarely even think about that environment anymore.
Initially, when that very first day that you had off, I remember we were floundering. We didn't have a schedule. We didn't feel mentally prepared for you to actually be home. But I think at the same time, in hindsight now, looking back a whole week, I can see that maybe it's probably a good thing we didn't have time to sit in it. We just jumped into the next thing and we started going, and that just kind of kept the ball rolling and the momentum going and building. If we had planned on you taking a month off to decompress and relax, we probably would not have just jumped into all of this and figured it out as quickly as we did.
That's just fuel for procrastination.
Right.
We jumped right in, like day one. It was
Can't
immediate.
Can't stop, won't stop.
I didn't really get much of a break, but you know what? The last few years have been a break for me. The whole going to work thing is a break. You're the one that was in the trenches. I was the one flying the plane over the battlefield, waving down at you.
See you later.
Yeah.
Here's your food rations.
Yep. Here's your ammo. But yeah, it did help to just jump straight in and just start creating. And it kind of just organically happened that way. I didn't really expect to take a day or two off or whatever it would have been. I was hungry to get going because
We both were.
30 days, man. We had to go.
Yeah.
So
the clock is ticking.
And you didn't really need to like get on me for it. It was more so just like, hey, let's roll. Let's start making content. Let's start really hammering down and get this squared away.
That's really helped too. It's been a team effort, a collaboration. Again, if we were to look back at both of us in our 20s, there would have been a lot of probably more procrastination maybe on your part, and then frustrations on my part from not being able to communicate and lead the team, if you will. But we've come so far in the last 5 to 10 years, and all of this has really kind of helped form a better relationship for us with our kids. Like, we now look at them as kind of part of the team. Mm-hmm. We're all the team. So we're leading them basically, and it's changed my mindset a lot. We're no longer, we grew up with the dictator parents or adults, if you will, not just our parents, but
yeah, right.
That mindset of do as you say, do as I say, not as I do type of thing. And so it's really helped our relationship with our kids and our bonding. We're doing it different. Doing it blind, but we're doing it different. Breaking the curses.
I guess as a closing thought, what's the biggest mindset shift someone needs to make to be financially successful as a nomad? Specifically talking mindset, like how can someone switch their mindset from society's ways and corporate ways to a life of abundance and freedom?
That is a very good question. I think it's twofold. You need to be open to growth in general, open to questioning everything. You need to just know that it's okay to question everything. It's okay to go against the grain. It's okay to follow your gut. It doesn't have to make sense to everybody else. It doesn't have to make sense to you. All you need to know is that we're all here for a reason with a different mission. We're all here to live differently and to live in our own truth, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Financially, you need to get over your fear of money. Mm-hmm. You need to get over the fear of lack, the fear of losing or competition or like whatever the bullshit is that comes with money. You need to start working through that, and you need to embrace more of an abundance mindset. It sounds cliche and stupid because everybody uses those words, but it's true. There's always enough. There's more than enough. And just simply opening up to allowing money to flow through you instead of being afraid of losing it is going to allow more money to just keep finding you, because what you put out, you get back times 10.
It's a great answer.
Go change your mindset about money.
Change your mindsets about money.
It's probably the biggest thing.
Specifically on that topic, what's the book? The Illusion of Money by Kyle Cease is a great read. Mm-hmm. Or audiobook. I have that on audiobook.
For those of us who don't read.
For those of you who don't read too good, like myself, it really will help you change your opinions on what money really is and how it can work for you instead of you working for it.
Money's just energy.
That's pretty much all we have.
Great. Thanks for being here, Todd. Podcast number 1. Here we go. Thank you so much for following along. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, hit that follow button.
Or if there's something specific you would like to hear come out of our mouths. I know we kind of just dumped a lot of random information, but if there's something specific that you would like us to make a video for, or
If you have more
anything,
questions about planning and budgeting, let us know, and we will talk about it in our next video.